Okay, welcome again, everyone, to another live stream. My 13th live stream. I'm actually quite proud of myself to be able to get through 13 live streams. Hey, Ishan, long time no see. That's okay. That is not at all an issue. I was just saying that I'm very proud of myself to be able to get through 13 of these live streams. This is my 13th live stream. I would usually expect myself to give up way before even completing 10, but here I am at my 13th live stream. Quite a refreshing change for me. Okay, so I'm going to we did take a break in between streams as well. So yeah, I know, I did take a break, but usually that break would become an excuse for me to not continue live streams at all and just say, you know what, I don't think live streams are for me, and I'm not gonna go ahead with it, things like that. But that didn't happen. I actually came back to it, so I'm quite happy with myself. I'm quite happy about the fact that I did come back again to these live streams, you know, and try to do them. Resume Biopunk, please. Yes, I will resume Biopunk. In fact, I was just thinking, so these traditional ones that I'm doing today, or I'm continuously doing at this point of time, I'm going to do 10 of them, and I'm going to actually complete the Biopunk live stream to eventually put that out as a bonus content for the Mermaid month. So I'm definitely going to finish that. I'm gonna finish it on live stream. Don't you worry about that. So this was the last one that I completed, and I already put it out there. And currently, I am working on this one, Odyssey. And instead of going down the usual route, I am usual route of actually creating the extension of fish body. I am going ahead with the extension of an octopus-like body. Usually octopus bodies would be a lot more would have a lot more width than this. This does not have that kind of the octopus kind of a width, but nevertheless, I thought why not go down that route, and this actually gave me a very good vibe. I quite like I quite like the output. I quite like what it is turning into, what this is turning into. So I'm quite happy about it. I'm quite excited about it, and I am mostly going to try and finish this by tomorrow. Octo Lady, yeah, the Octo Lady from Mermaid, yes. Though a lot of the inspiration that I'm getting right now is from another Indian artist who did Mermaid last year and who became extremely popular because of the Mermaid series that he did last year. You can look him up on Instagram. His Instagram handle, if I'm not wrong, is called Arjun's Workshop, right? So if you look up Arjun's Workshop on Instagram, you will see these amazing stuff that this guy Arjun created last year, and he became extremely famous because of the Mermaid series that he did last year. I think after the Mermaid series, he started working with some uh, big budget international clients because the clients actually noticed the kind of work that he did, and so I have actually been going back to his mermaid illustrations from last year and taking these subtle cues and inspirations for the designs that I'm making right now. And his designs are a lot more. cartoony than my designs are, but at the same time, his designs are completely digitally painted. My designs right now are like 4 tones, 5 tones, moving around in that kind of a format. But yeah, I actually take a lot of inspiration from Arjun's workshop and the things that he created. So yeah, I love his work. Brilliant, brilliant artist. Right. Anyway, so today I am going to continue with these traditional mermaid illustrations, of course. But today I was thinking of all the mermaid illustrations that I have created before and I have live streamed them. I've always been live streaming from this particular um, uh, from this point onwards in the process, where I already have a rough sketch ready, and then I move into the final sketch, and then I move into trying to color it and so on and so forth. So you guys have already seen those parts of the processes. The only thing that I have not really shown as a process is uh, how I go about creating the initial sketch. For example, this sketch, this is the initial sketch, and I've never really shown how I go about creating the initial sketch, especially for these mermaid sketches. Now, this is my inspiration for this, and you can see the direct relevance, obviously, right? But this is what I wanted to look into today and show you guys how I create the initial sketches for these mermaid illustrations. So I was thinking that Odyssey is already there. This is already there. I wanted to do the initial sketches for two more of these, and then basically show you the process and what I think and how I go about doing this. Right. So Odyssey was definitely part of the list. Unfortunately, I haven't much thought of what other ones I should be taking into account. Right. So I've constantly been Googling Indian dance forms and looking at what are the usual Indian dance forms, right? And I have already covered Kathakali, Kathak, Odissi, Kuchipudi, Manipuri. All these things I've already covered. Two very important ones that actually come from the south, which is the Bharatnatyam and the Mohiniyattam. So Bharatnatyam is from Tamil Nadu, obviously, and Mohiniyattam is from Kerala. Um, I want to take them, but a little later on during the process because I want to take up other parts of the country first before going back to the south. I already have things from the south. I just recently I did Kathakali, so I don't want to go back to the south immediately. Take Bihar one. You can mutate it. Okay. Though I don't mind it. I actually don't know what kind of dance forms actually come from Bihar. There is another dance form which is considered to be a very pure Indian dance form known as the uh, Satriya, but I don't know where Satriya comes from. Satriya is from Assam, and Satriya is so Assam. I've already taken Odissi, which is all again from the east, and the Satriya dance form. If you actually look at the kind of attire that they have, is uh, as in the head attire that they have is very close to that of Odyssey because they have this nice big circular circle made out of flowers at the back of their head. But the kind of sari that the people doing Satriya actually have is very interesting. So if you want to look at it, um, you can have a look at it on Google. Just look up Satriya and you will see what it is that I'm talking about. It's called Drink and Dance from Bihar. Let me actually, I'm quite intrigued now. Let me just look at what is the if Bihar actually has a traditional dance form. Bihar folk dance. It does. Bihar does have dance forms, obviously. I'm good. How are you doing? AR Splatter. I don't know who you are. I'm sorry. AR Splatter. I think I know you, but I don't remember. Bihar does have a dance form. Bihar has uh, folk dances. They call one folk dance called Jata Jatin. Anurag, hi Anurag. Yes. Now I know you could just said Anurag. I know you're from Santur. So, but hi Anurag. Okay, okay. So there is Jata Jatin from Bihar. There is Bakho Bakhen from Bihar. There is Panvaria. I don't know if it's called Panvaria or Panvaria. There is Sama Chakwa and there is Bidesia. There are five folk dance forms from Bihar. That's where Jatin comes. Nice. And apparently, out of all of them, the most famous dance form is Jat Jatin. No, I highly doubt if every Jatin is from Bihar. Okay. But the difference being that I think, as far as what I know, the dance forms that I've already taken are not folk dance forms. So all the dance forms that I've taken are classical dance forms, not folk dance forms at all. In which case, though I think the Lavani is not a classical dance form, I think the Lavani is a folk dance form. So that is one particular variation that I have created, which means that I other variations should also be absolutely fine, I think. Like Indian Genghis Khan is just confirmed. Hmm. Okay. So India by understanding by nature. Hi Bhavya. India by understanding by nature has n number of folk dance forms, but has only one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight classical dance forms. Right? Hi Suyash. It has only eight classical dance forms. It's got Bharatnatyam from Tamil Nadu. It's got Kathak from Uttar Pradesh. It's got Kathakali from Kerala, Kuchipudi from Andhra Pradesh, Odissi from Odisha, Satriya from Assam, Manipuri from Manipur, and Mohiniyattam from Kerala. Okay. So at this point in time, I do have no other choice but to actually take up Satriya from Assam and Mohiniyattam from Kerala. Okay. So let's let's do those two. Let's do Satriya from Assam and Mohiniyattam from Kerala. Okay, cool. So my usual, as you can already guess from the way that I have created this, that all the dance forms that I'm creating up to this point is a direct relevance to the kind of image that I take, to the kind of reference that I take. So the entire dance form in terms of the human stance comes from the reference that I take, and the rest of it is either from imagination or from taking references from other artists and so on and so forth. So that basically comes together in that kind of a fashion. Hello, hi Krati. So the stream chat that is there, it does not actually update a lot of things. So I don't really know who is there or not. Oh, she's listening to this via Discord. Oh, and in any case, hi, shout out to Krati. Hi Krati, what's up? Okay, so let's take a Mohiniyattam. Let's start with Mohiniyattam. Yes. Now the most distinct feature of Mohiniyattam, and I've not seen Mohiniyattam live. I've seen a lot of Mohiniyattam on television, and I have one of my aunts, if I'm not wrong, actually used to do Mohiniyattam at some point in her youth, and I've seen pictures, and I've seen that uh, the most distinct feature of the Mohiniyattam dancers is the way that they put their hair up. The big bun that is there on either side of the head. That's one of the most distinct features, I believe, of the Mohiniyattam dancers, and the way that they actually kind of present themselves. Now, one of the main things that I look for when I'm looking for references, right? One of the main things that I look for is the poses that they have. What is the kind of silhouette that they are putting out? Because you will see that in all the dances that I've taken up to this point, you will see that I think in all of them their hands are widespread, excepting for the Kuchipudi one, which is a little within, it's a little inside, close to her body. But otherwise, all the others, their arms are widespread, and that moves to show a very very beautiful kind of or a very active kind of a posture, a very active silhouette. So I am constantly kind of understanding what kind of silhouette the poses have, and if I see something that displays a very good silhouette, then I go ahead and take that off immediately. Mohiniyattam was Kathak, which is very interesting because Mohiniyattam is as South Indian as you can possibly get, while Kathak is as North Indian as you can possibly get. And Kathak is, I think, one of the or one of the only or maybe the only classical dance form which is not completely rooted to Hindu traditions. Right? Kathak is a kind of classical dance form that has risen by an amalgamation of Indian and Persian influences. It is a dance form that came with the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughals and stuff like that. So it's very interesting. No, no, why you say that? Why would you ban it? It's beautiful. I mean, I know you are being very false bhakt right now, but no, please don't. So you see, this is a very nice image. I don't know why it is against what seems like a PNG. I'm pretty sure it's not even a PNG, but this is a very nice image. In terms of both the silhouette that the character has. I mean, you can see that she's looking upwards, which you know creates that kind of a dynamism, and also you can easily and properly understand the clothes that she's wearing. You can understand how the clothes are moving around her body. The drapery is very easily understandable and distinguishable, and so this becomes a very very good reference in terms of the silhouette, in terms of the pose, in terms of the clarity, so on and so forth. And usually I am constantly looking at all these things when I am picking up any kind of references, right? Seen that Mohiniyattam thing I wrote? You did that now, the pose. Or basically social media without the connections but with the jealousy back in the day. Really? How do you mean? I don't quite understand. I don't know if I'm supposed to take that seriously to begin with. Street dance off. So let me just bring in Mohiniyattam picture over here. See, it is not a PNG. I hate it when this happens. This is just so stupid when they actually put this uh, transparent background and turns out that it is a checkered background. And if you guys have tried this, you will know that trying to remove the checkered background is a lot more difficult than it being a white background. It's better if it was just a white background. Yeah, remove background is a tool? That's new. I did not know about this. The world that is. Yes, it is. It is very, 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 very irritating. What is this remove background tool that you speak of, Ishan? Where do you find it? I think I might just learn something new today. 2020. Yeah, I think I'm using 2020, but where is it? As in, where do you find the remove background tool? Let me just group this up and call this Odyssey. Change layout to essential. I have to change the layout. Damn, I don't want to change the layout. I love my layout. It's in properties tab. Okay. Properties as in preferences? Don't quite see the properties tab. Hmm. Oh, I'm anyways working in 3D. Why am I working in 3D? I don't even know that. And I don't want to share either. No, go away. Okay, we'll look into it later. Right now, I don't really need it as such, so it's fine. Okay, let me just remove this Odyssey one, lock this layer, shift it, and I basically start off sketching. And even when I start off sketching, as I had shown you previously also, I keep flipping the canvas. Okay, flipping the canvas actually really helps, and so I keep flipping the canvas to understand whether my um, position is actually working out properly or not. As a rule of sketching, especially sketching characters or human beings, as a rule of sketching, I always start with the head. I never start off with any other part of the body, because starting off with any other part of the body uh, means that it is going to become difficult for me, especially to kind of break down the proportions of the body and break down the proportions of the anatomy and so on and so forth. Go in window, add properties window. Okay, go in window. Um, Workspace में? No, not workspace में. Properties. Properties. Okay, cool. Got it. Properties. Okay. And what do I do in this? Remove background. Right? That's what remove background. Okay. Nothing quite. Oh, okay. Holy shit! Wow, that is amazing. I learned something new and something that is extremely valuable. Awesome. Thank you, Ishan, for everyone who saw that. This is how you do this. You actually go into the properties tab and you just, in quick actions, you have remove background. Very cool. I did not know that. Lovely. Yes, I actually should actually, let me just place it over here, and lovely. Properties tab. Thank you so much for that. I learned something very cool today. Yep, I will remember this. Very easy indeed. Very easy. Okay. So I usually don't go ahead and try and break down the head as much as I possibly can at the very beginning, because um, one mistake that a lot of rookies actually make, I think a lot of amateur artists, one mistake that they always make is that they move into the details from the very beginning instead of trying to look at the bigger picture. It's very important as an artist to first work on the larger picture, the bigger picture, and then move into the details as you move forward with the sketch and whatnot. So right now my main concern is just the pose and nothing else. Right? I don't care about the details of the face at all at this point of time. That is something that will come much later on. Right now, I'm only concerned about the pose. and flip and look. Something that I keep on doing. I think you guys saw that the last time also. But flip and pose, flip and pose. That is very, very important to continuously do that. You know, consistently subject yourself to the mistakes that you might have made within the composition. Gesture only. Where you coming for a Kalka class then? Yeah, Bojo sir said. Ah, yeah, mostly I will be coming for Kalka class. Yes. For all the people who are here, I hope that all of you kind of have someone who you, uh, for example, when you make a kind of a design, I hope you have someone who you bounce that design off of, okay? Because that so that that person can actually critique your designs. That is, I think that is very, very important. Why does Flip always make such a big deal though? It makes a big deal because when we are trying to make something, right? Any kind of artwork, whether that be 2D, 3D, anything of that sort. Uh, One of the things that actually happens is that our mind becomes very used to seeing that image that we are making. When it is held in a single stance, our mind becomes very used to seeing that image. And so, because our mind becomes used to seeing that image, it also stops looking at mistakes. It accepts the mistakes as something that is supposed to be part of the design. You know, so trying to look at your own piece of work from different perspectives become very, very important. And there are two things that artists constantly do. One is flip the canvas. As soon as you flip the canvas, there is a completely new image that your brain is presented with. And when your brain is presented with a new image, it finds it very, very easy to look at mistakes in that image. And with that, you can actually rectify it. Okay, so artists use that as a definite thing, and that is to be able to flip the canvas and look at it from different perspectives. Another thing that artists do along with flipping the canvas is also take a break. You know, take a break and move away from the image that you are making. And when you move away from that image that you're making, maybe for an hour, maybe 2 hours or whatever, when you move away from that image and come back to that image later on, again there is a fresh perspective, and your brain looks at the image with a fresh perspective, and it allows you to see the mistakes again. We just used to see our sketch upside down. Yes, you can see a sketch upside down. But seeing the sketch upside down doesn't always help, because you don't know what the sketch is supposed to look like from feet to head. You know what the sketch is supposed to look like from head to feet, but the brain doesn't process very well when you show an image from feet to head. We don't know what are the proper proportions when the image starts with the feet. We know what the proper proportions are when the image starts at the head. So instead of that, the natural way of doing flip horizontal, and something that I used to do a lot when I was in college, is just to put up my drawing or painting in front of a mirror, right? And so what you are doing is creating a natural flip horizontal effect. And with a natural flip horizontal effect, you have a new perspective, and you actually look at the mistakes within your drawing. So that is also something that you can actually employ, and that is putting it up in front of the mirror. Uh, Hey JD, welcome. I had a request. बोलना जेडी. What is your request? I still have many dance forms to go. I'm actually looking at a series of 10 of these, so I want to, and this is just, I think, the seventh one that I'm doing. I already have the sketch for the sixth one ready to move into. This is the sixth one. It's supposed to be Odyssey, and I'm doing this in the form of an octopus, right? And now I am doing this one, which is Mohiniyattam, right? Bihar next. No, not Bihar. There is nothing from Bihar. I mean, there are folk dances from Bihar, but right now I'm looking at doing it in terms of, just classical dances. I like the octopus idea. Thank you, JD. Jatin. No, there is no Jatin. Can you do a Bollywood disco dance form? I was actually thinking about that. I was thinking that जो आखिरी वाला मैं करने वाला हूँ, जो 10th वाला मैं करने वाला हूँ, I was thinking why not actually, I'm using some classical Indian dance forms, I'll use some folk dance forms, and at the end, why not actually finish it off with a Bollywood dance form? Like, yeah, disco, Bollywood disco dance form, so I was thinking about it, and I think I might just go ahead and implement something like that, especially considering that Bollywood is such a big influence in on dance in the entire world. Why not actually go ahead and do a Bollywood dance form also? Yes, remove this. Her hands are actually quite. I don't want to say fat, but they're broad. Usually broad. I don't want to put that into this. Might just steal the grace factor away from the entire sketch. So don't quite want to do that. Yes, that's perfect. Let me know when you do that one. Sure, I will. I will. Mermaid is almost coming to an end. Today is the 21st, which means there are 10 more days to be able to do this. So I think somewhere around the end of the month in one, I think maybe next Friday, I will try. I'll mostly be doing the Bollywood one that we are talking about right now. So I think I might just do that. Yeah. Hashtag Jatin Dance audience has spoken, sir. Bulk, not proper diet, I guess. First we had the Hulk, now we have the bulk. Ishan, what have you been smoking? WWI Mal, the bulk. You're the incredible bulk. Baapre. You sound like You sound like someone on a sugar rush. Oh damn it, we can make Mohiniyattam a dance martial art. You can consider making Mohiniyattam a dance martial art because uh, it comes from the same place as uh, damn it, what is the name of the uh, what is the name of the martial art from Kerala? Damn, I should be knowing this. I'm a Keralite. I mean, part Keralite. But damn, what was it? Uh, Mallu, you did not know that I'm part Mallu? It seems like that is new information to you. How is that new information to you? You should be knowing that by now. What was it? Hmm, martial arts. Kalaripayattu. Right, Kalaripayattu, yes. So this also comes from the same place as Kalaripayattu. So, yeah, we're supposed to know this. I don't know. I thought that this is like common knowledge to everybody. I mean, oh, okay. Then I think this live stream is a good place to talk about my background. So I am a hybrid. I'm a mix. My mom is a Malayali and my dad is a Bengali. Yes, yes, I am. So I belong to the south and I belong to the east areas of the country. It's a very mix. Uh, it's a very odd mix, you know. Along with that, I have spent the most amount of my living time. No, I mean living time. I mean most amount of time of my life in Maharashtra. So from I think from sixth standard, I have grown up in Maharashtra in Mumbai. So I have spent a good 20 years in this city now. So there is Calcutta, so there is Bengal, there is Kerala, there is Maharashtra, Mumbai. My wife is Maharashtrian, and it's a nice big mix. I am one cosmopolitan idiot, Chetan Bhagat. These hands are definitely going to be a pain to make. This hand over here, which is against the chest, is going to be quite easy because it seems very unidimensional in nature. Unidimensional in nature, so that shouldn't be a problem. The other one that is away from her hand, the hand that she's looking at, is very complex because of the perspective in which it is engaged in. So that is a very complex hand, and I'm going to really have to look at how to manage the perspective of the cylinders of the fingers as well as of the palm to be able to get that quite right. So that's that's a headache for a little bit of a later stage. Right now, let's just look at trying to get this fixed. The face. This is this face that we are drawing over here right now is actually a very interesting and a very difficult angle to get. And considering that she actually has a very jawish, very brick-like jaw, you can see that it's actually made of, it looks very boxy. There is a very, very good chance that I might screw up the face in a way to make her eventually look a little manly. Something that I would really love to avoid, but sometimes you just cannot avoid doing that. That is one very, very big drawback that I face as an artist. And that is, for a very large amount of time I have been drawing just male characters. And when your hand becomes very, very used to drawing male characters, that manliness unfortunately comes as an aspect into the female characters also, right? Because of which, all of you who are planning to become proper artists like this, as in hand drawn artists, traditional artists, or a digital artist like this, do not fixate on a single thing, or a single type or a single gender of characters, because that is going to be very, very detrimental for you, right? So if you actually want to have the ease to be able to draw male and female characters, then continuously draw male and female characters. Do not just draw male characters, later on female characters is going to become very, very difficult for you guys, right? So don't just draw male characters. Men, men, men. Yes, I know. I've watched Two and a Half Men. I love Two and a Half Men. In fact, I think my wife and I are still watching Two and a Half Men. She also loves it, and I also get to watch Two and a Half Men along with her. So I also watch Two and a Half Men. I'm now doing a female character. Yes, you should. You should do female characters. Don't Mallus hate Bong though? Who told you that? Where did that come from? Mallu friend. Who is this Mallu friend? I need to meet him. Toon Boom webinar going on right now. Oh, you guys should be attending that, right? Really, son? Remove McAfee. Yes, I need to remove McAfee. That is virus. Yes, good enough. Yeah, not after season 9. I also left Two and a Half Men after season 9. I did not feel like watching it after Charlie Sheen left the show. After Charlie Sheen leaves and Ashton Kutcher comes in, I personally do not like the show. I do not enjoy the show. I think the show goes down a very horrible road. It stops being funny after a very, very after a very evident point within the show. It stops being funny, and it kind of becomes a little pathetic. Though I have left, the kid also leaves, exactly. Though I don't usually like leaving any show half done, so there is a very good chance that at some point I will go back to watching Two and a Half Men and finish the show, even if there is no Charlie Sheen and Ashton Kutcher comes in and all of that. There's a very good chance I might go in. But I think my wife and I were just in season 3 or season 4. I think just yesterday we were talking about it, and my wife was telling me that there is hardly any show out there that is so funny and sarcastic with each passing line. That's how good the show is, right? Or that's how good the show used to be. Not anymore, unfortunately, but I guess we can't do anything about that. But for the people who have not watched Two and a Half Men, go ahead and watch it. I won't say it's one of the best or the highest graded shows when it comes to, well, moral values. It has no moral values and steps over any moral value that you can possibly think of. But it is a hilarious show. It's really well written in its sarcastic understanding and sarcastic nature and stuff. So yeah, you should definitely give it a try. You will not be disappointed, at least in the first 6 or 7 seasons. You will definitely not be disappointed. Mm, It's not. It's okay. Not good enough. Plus the kid also left for 3 seconds. Yeah. Are all of you looking forward to your theory exams? I don't understand why are we having webinars with salespeople. um, how do you know that it's with salespeople? How do you know that it's actually not with, like, I don't know, professional artists or something? I mean, technically I should also be there for that webinar, and I might just get into trouble if people knew that there are students who should be there in the webinar and they are instead over here in my live stream. So yes, I'm walking the edge. It's always, they said that. Oh, written bold under their photos. Yeah. As far as what I know, the priorities. As far as what I know, the this thing that is there, the seminar that is actually happening at this point of time, the seminar is uh, basically for them to be able to show you what are the advantages of using Toon Boom Harmony over other 2D animation softwares. So they are most probably going to be showing you the kind of tools that are there in 2D Harmony, Harmony, the ease of working with those tools, what can the tools do, some very jazzed up stuff also about 2D Harmony, because I know that Harmony is a very powerful software and that there are a lot of ways where it can be jazzed up. So I'm guessing that they will be showing all of those things as well. And basically encouraging students to go ahead and buy Harmony licenses so that they can work on Harmony in the future, and yeah, so on and so forth. I think that's pretty much what is happening. Let's flip this. Okay, not bad. Seems to be working quite well. I'm happy with it. How many of you are on DeviantArt? Have you guys heard of DeviantArt? How many of you are there on DeviantArt? Anybody? Have you guys heard of DeviantArt? Yes. You are there on DeviantArt, Bhavya? I am. Oh, okay. Let me know what your handle is. Yes, you too, Anurag. Let me know what your handle is. Heard of it, not used it. You should. You should. DeviantArt. DeviantArt. When I became a concept artist and I decided that I will go into the industry and stuff, DeviantArt was the real thing. It was the OG platform when it comes to sharing your artwork, right? So DeviantArt was really out there, and a lot of people loved DeviantArt. Haven't posted, never. Oh, you should. And the thing with DeviantArt is that a lot of people loved DeviantArt because it was a wholesome community of artists. I believe that even now also it is quite a wholesome community of artists as compared to ArtStation. ArtStation is a platform that is completely dominated by industry professionals and things like that. It uh, doesn't really help artists who are beginners. ArtStation really does not do that. It does not give you the capacity to grow. The community of ArtStation does not give you the capacity to grow. It just puts the professional artists out there for everyone to see. It can be very inspirational. There is a lot of learning that is happening in ArtStation because of the things that ArtStation by themselves are publishing. But it's not very kind to beginners as compared to DeviantArt. DeviantArt is very kind to beginners, firstly, and secondly, uh, there is a there is a very integral community within DeviantArt, which means that if you join DeviantArt, then you are expected to look at other people's work. You are expected to not necessarily like their work, but comment their work, start a dialogue with people, and that's how a community actually grows. So I personally really like DeviantArt. It's a very, very nice community-based art place, has a good art community as well. I've never actually looked into 4chan. Maybe at some point I should look into 4chan also. Yeah, I do go there frequently to enjoy some good art. Yes. So the kind of art that is there in DeviantArt, there is some very, very beautiful artworks out there. But those are the kind of artworks that you can really appreciate but not feel intimidated by. Because you can actually look at the work that is there on this thing DeviantArt, and you can actually process it and think, this I can achieve if I strive a little more towards my art, then I can achieve this kind of a level. Should not be that difficult as compared to uh, looking at ArtStation. ArtStation is truly intimidating. ArtStation is the kind of place where you actually look at it and go like, I don't think I'll ever be able to reach that position that this particular concept artist is in, right? So that is I think the fundamental difference between being a artist on DeviantArt and being an artist in ArtStation. Don't on live stream or humans or animals around. I know I've been to 4chan. Don't worry, I know what is going on in 4chan. I have not explored the art community in 4chan. I feel like Proco 2.0 is also trying to create a community like that. Proco is the best. Proco is amazing. I mean, I love Stan Prokopenko, and also along with Stan Prokopenko, I also love the other guy, Mike, Mike. I forgot his full name. Damn it. But I think that Proco is doing an amazing job trying to educate artists, trying to inspire artists, trying to show them the right way of uh, thinking about art. There is no right way of doing the art, but there is definitely the right ways when it comes to thinking about the art. And I think Prokopenko is doing an amazing job when it comes to trying to influence people on how they should the um, think about the art. They do have a good art community plus a food community. Kind of ironic as they have a right wing page in cooking. Yes, he really can have a crossover. Mike Matesi. No, 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 not Mike Matesi. Mike Matesi. Um, just give me a minute. I'll tell you. His name is Marshall Vandruff. Marshall Vandruff. And Marshall Vandruff is just this absolutely awe-inspiring, amazing traditional artist. He is someone who has spent his entire life being a teacher. And what does he teach? He teaches every art fundamental that you can possibly think of. He teaches anatomy, he teaches perspective, he teaches composition, he teaches colors, and he is just such a brilliant teacher and brilliant artist. So there are a lot of videos out there of Marshall Vandruff, and there is Marshall Vandruff's website as well. So you guys can go ahead and look at the kind of work that he does and the kind of courses that he offers. but he is an absolute genius when it comes to the kind of things that he teaches. So you should definitely look up Marshall Van Druff, and Stan Prokopenko has been collaborating with Marshall Van Druff for quite some time, including for their podcast, which is called The Draftsman. And I am a very big fan of that podcast. I'm a very big fan of Draftsman. I was talking about it the last time as well, and practically speaking, that's how big of a fan I am because I can't really stop talking about it. So I really love that. Take a leave now. Jatin dance, Jatin dance. Okay, no problem, Ishan. Thank you so much for stopping by. Right. So this is where the tricky part comes in. So I already have a reference for the top half, and I can just copy the reference of the top half and look at what it is that I want to do with the top half and so on and so forth, which is which can be very interesting and endearing process. But the actual uh, challenge comes in at the bottom part because there is only so many times that you can actually draw the same kind of half fish body where before you find the need to start to create variations. And that's one of the reasons why I actually created this octopus one, is because I wanted a variation to what it is that I was making, right? So I want a variation for this also. I don't want to go ahead with the fish design. So before I look into what it is that I want to make in terms of this, I just wanted to show you guys the work of the guy who I was talking about previously. That is Arjun's workshop. Arjun's workshop. So this is the guy who I was talking about. You guys can go ahead and check him out on Instagram. But this guy's last year's mermaid has been so inspirational for so many people. And I have also been taking inspiration to the kind of work that he has been doing in terms of his mermaid that he did last year. So if I scroll down, yeah, these are the mermaids that he did last year. And some of them are just so beautiful. So the octopus design that I was doing for the previous one for Odyssey is actually inspired from this one. Is actually inspired from this. Now, obviously, the angles are very different to what I am using, obviously, and the theme is also quite different from the one that I am using. But still, his art is beautiful, and the way that he thinks about it is also beautiful. It's just brilliant. Okay, so I have been taking some design inspirations from him. For example, in the Manipuri one, I was actually looking at um, this one, the first mermaid that he created, and I took the reference from this only for the end of the tail fin, and I implemented this end of the tail fin into the Manipuri dance, right? Yeah, I know this guy. Saw his compilation of Mermaid Thingy, epic. Yeah, his work is just beautiful, right? So I am now looking at what else I can take as inspirations that I can implement into my current design. And one of the things that I was really interested and intrigued by is this stingray mermaid and how he has actually created the stingray mermaid. And so the next mermaid that I was planning to create, I wanted to implement the stingray mermaid into this as well. You know, but before I move into actually looking at this or trying to implement the Stingray Mermaid, so I have this design inspiration with me, and I would like to implement this design inspiration. Okay, but at the same time, what I also end up doing is looking at actual images of stingrays, right? So I can look at stingrays, manta rays, and look at the overall body, look at the overall proportions, and how do stingrays actually look. The main thing about the stingray is basically these flaps that are there, and I love this image itself on how the flap is actually looking. So these flaps are what are most important. Are you going to the multiple arms mermaid thing? Very interesting. I actually did not. I forgot about the multiple arms mermaid thing. I will do that. at some point or the other. Maybe I will do it for the. So at the end of this entire series, I'm going to end it with a Bollywood mermaid, right? So I don't mind doing the Bollywood mermaid with maybe, I don't know, multiple arms, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. It's very interesting, and I'm going to do it. Let me do one thing. Let me just save this image, right? Bring this into Photoshop, right? Flip this over. Should I flip this? Flip this over. Okay. Let's see if I can implement these wings for the mermaid that I am creating. Just keep this here. And I do run a risk with this design. The one of the major risks of the design is it might get confused for actual wings instead of stingray flaps. It might get confused for actual wings. So I might have to look into. I might have to see what I can do for that. But for now, let me just see what it actually looks like with the mermaid. The kids in my colony really know how to shout. They are experts in it. Let me see if I can bring this down and join it in the overall this thing. So I like these flaps. These flaps are nice, and one of the main reasons why I like this flap is not only because of the way that it moves, but also if you look at the curve that it has on either side, that kind of a curve you will never be able to expect in wings of birds, right? Because they are actually flowing in such fluidity. That fluidity you will never be able to get in the wings of birds. It will only be possible if something like the force of water actually allows you to create that kind of fluidity, and that inherently gives the idea that whatever it is that we are looking at could well be underwater, right? In respect to that fluidity, actually, I don't mind if I exaggerate this one a little bit either, So I don't I can push this back a little bit more than what it was to create that sense of fluidity and push this inwards as well, right? I'm trying to, one of the things that I am concentrating on right now is to try and create a sense of fluidity, not fluidity, sorry, fluidity is the wrong word. Try and create a sense of symmetry on either side, right? And you can see that there is this tapering nature of the wing, and then it moves out again as an extra formation within the flap actually happens. Okay. Now those bulges that I am talking about right now, those extra flaps, is something that I want with in a sense of symmetry on either side. So maybe something like this. So if I actually make a roundabout like this, then it moves at the same level. So basically that works in terms of trying to create a sense of symmetry. That works. Okay. Also, what is very important that what I feel is very important is if you actually look into this, these lines that are actually forming what looks like a muscle sinews on the flaps, these lines are also quite important. So I just want to implement those lines as well. Give it something like right. Now, as an extension to this, now I'm going to have to look at how I want to create the lower portion of this mermaid. I will actually still have to make it long because if I have kept something uh, slim and tall at the beginning, then I'm going to have to uh, continue that design understanding into the rest of the body as well, right? So in terms of the design understanding, let's go back to Arjun's design, and you can see that he has also created something that is long and slim and tapering into eventually what looks like um, what do you call that at the end? The tail, yes, but it looks like a sting that is there at the end of the tail, right? And then what is also very, very interesting to me are these extra flaps that he has actually put into place. Okay, let's see what else we can do in terms of the stingray, in terms of the actual design of the stingray, right? One more thing that I would also really love to look at is the manta ray. Oh, it's right here. Sorry. It's the manta ray. So the manta ray is something that is a lot, much bigger than the stingray itself. And as you can see, there are different classifications of the manta ray. One classification of the manta ray is basically having a flap that is completely circular, and it basically creates a rhythmic effect with its flap as it moves backwards, right? And as it moves forward or backwards or whatever. And then there are the other giant manta rays that have wings. Okay, they are actually not wings; they are also flaps. But because of the length of the flaps and the way that they use the flaps, especially in this one, if you see the way that they use the flaps, they are actually called wings, right? So that is also something that is very interesting. But I want to see what it is that I would like to implement. Here is a comprehensive this thing of the manta ray, right? Looks like a majestic spaceship. Funny you should say that because a lot of science fiction artists have taken inspiration from marine life to be able to create their spaceships, including stingrays and manta rays and stuff like that. So a lot of the designs that we actually love, or a lot of the designs that we actually have seen a lot of times, they have been influenced from natural things from around in and around our world. So that's the stingray is also one such thing. If you look at this particular manta ray, then this particular manta ray looks exactly like uh, um, a lot of warrior spaceships that are there in Star Wars and it's Star Trek. You know, they actually look like wings, and you can expect engines and routers to be there within underneath those wings that propels it forward. So you'll find a lot of spaceships that have actually been kind of reference from this. So yeah, you are absolutely right. So one of the things that I find very intriguing, or two things at this point in time that I find very intriguing, obviously this is the sea fish, which is not something that I'm looking forward to because this does not look like the manta ray or the stingray or anything like that. One looks like a stingray IG. Yeah, yeah, it does. It really does. I am interested in this. This looks very interesting, and I'm interested in this. This also looks very interesting. Okay, so as an extension, I'm still going to pull out the rest of the mermaid in a fish format. Okay, I'm going to pull her back, and this mermaid I am going to make a little long. Okay, I'm going to make her a little big. So I'm going to shrink the overall structure a little bit. The overall structure, but I'm going to change certain things over here. Now, in terms of compositional understanding, okay, thank you, Bhavya. See you. Thank you for coming. Now, in terms of compositional understanding, one of the things that I am trying to implement in most of the designs that I have been making over the last 1 month, especially for Mermaid series, is to create leading lines within the composition. Okay. Now, what do I mean by leading lines within the composition? Basically, what I want is I want elements of the composition to lead directly back to the main part of the composition, which is the dancer. Okay. So, as an example, let me just show you. Let me just go back to this one, right? So there are things that actually do work in this, and there are things that I'm going to change in this. Okay. Now, what are the things that what are the things that I work, and what are the things that I would like to change in this? Now, you will see that there are this is the entire dancing format that we have, and that is the main part of the entire composition. The tentacles that I have actually put out, I should be pointing those tentacles back at her, or doing things that actually brings the viewer's eyes back towards this particular composition. So, for example, the tentacle at the back comes out and points back at her. Okay. Over here, the tentacle that comes out over here points upwards, points it back to this tentacle, and the vision will come back into the dancer or towards the dancer. Over here, I should be pointing this tentacle towards the dancer, and over here, I should be pointing the tentacle back towards this one. So essentially, everything should circle back around to my dancer, who is the main part of the composition. Over here, you see that the tentacle actually comes over here and then comes back up. So it circles back up again. Okay. These are all compositional understandings that are called leading lines, and there needs to be leading lines that points towards what is the most important part of the composition. Okay. I'm trying to implement, or I'm going to try and implement similar things over here. So for example, if you look at the leading lines that are there on either side, both these wings move back and point towards her, right? They point back towards her. The very nature of the wings is such that even if the eyes trace down back towards the bottom half, these wings will actually pull back the sight and push it back towards the top. Push it back towards the top. And now what I'm doing with the with this with the lower portion of the fish is also trying to lead it back into the design again, so that the eyes revolve back towards the dancer. Okay, so these are all leading lines and things that I find to be very, very important in terms of deciding what kind of composition you want to implement into your illustrations. Let there be a clear indication of leading lines. If you actually go back and look at Arjun's designs also, he is doing the exact same thing. So if you look at the wings, it traces back and points back towards the character. These wings also traces back, points back towards the character, and this tail also comes back and points directly back at the character, which means that at no point of time within this composition do we look away from the character at any point of time, right? Look at any other part of any other interesting composition as well, and you will see that a lot of them end up trying to switch back at the character in many ways. So at any point of time, I would ask you guys to go to any illustration, any good illustration from any good artist, and kind of study it and see how they have made compositional understandings, right? So coming back to our mermaid. So this is what I am implementing for our mermaid. This is the kind of thing that I'm implementing for our mermaid. I am not implementing a sting as such, right? Maybe we can move away from the idea of a stingray and move more towards the idea of what is that? That is a guitar fish. That is an Atlantic guitar fish, and this is called a skate. This is a skate and an Atlantic guitar fish. So that is what is my inspiration for this, the skate and the Atlantic guitar fish. As you can see, I changed a little bit over here because I want to add a little bit of curvature to her silhouette. Again, main focus for doing this is to create a sense of fluidity. And along with that, the side little fins that the guitar fish has, I want to implement those side fins. Just have a look at that again. Maybe I don't mind overlapping over this so that I have something of this sort moving out from behind her. Let me see if I can reduce this. I'm not entirely sure of whether it needs to be this long. Maybe I can reduce the size of this a little bit. Right? Maybe not choose both of them together. Maybe I'll select only the lower bit and try to warp that out. Yeah, that's much better. That is working absolutely fine. Implement that, and now the design, the lower portion of the design at least, does not take up as much space. Right? Can remove all of this. Right? And what I would like is to this for this part to have retained its curvature, but it has not. So I'm just going to erase these areas off and point it back towards her the way that it previously was. Something like this. Right. I want to alter the position of this side fin because it seems to be a little off. Seems to be off in terms of its symmetry. I'm just going to push it back up, erase that, remove this area, and now flip it and look at what it is looking like. All right, seems up, seems fine. Still not happy with this fin though. So I'm just going to allow it to look something like this. Okay, yes, this works. And lastly, what I want to do is implement either one of the two tails. Okay, I quite like this tail, and this tail actually ends in what looks like a sting. So I will end up creating not necessarily a sting, but a pointy tapering tail of sorts, and extend this. Okay, so that it eventually ends up pointing back to her again. Let me just flip this around because this entire area is starting to look a little flat to me. Okay, so I don't want that. I want to remove this flatness. Still a little flat, but at least now has more volume than what it did previously. Seems to be curving nicely now. Okay, let's take this end of the tail. Okay, and again warp this out such that it starts pointing at her. Okay, that warp is not going to help me, so I'm going to remove this, rotate it, and then rework on it so that it eventually points at the character. Yeah, better. Okay, cool. I'm going to add this part of the tail also. So the fins that are there, those weird fins that are there on top of the tail, I'm going to add that as well. So just have something like that. And now considering that I have a very long design at this point of time, one of the things, one more thing that I would like to add, and this is something that I did in another design that was actually quite long, is the dress that we are looking at this point of time. I would like to extend that dress into the rest of the design as well. Now, when I say the rest of the design, I don't mean all the way up to the end, of course. What I actually mean is just a little bit more than what it is right now so that I can understand what it looks like. I don't want to kind of let go to waste the design that I already have, and this is an experiment that I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to lock this layer and take up a new layer to be able to implement that, right? Actually, before that, let me just make a few changes into this layer itself. One of the main changes is that this drape that I have created, right? I know it looks a little bit or very much like this, but I do not like the way that it kind of breaks off the symmetry a little bit. So again, and symmetry is something that I think is very important for the designs that I'm creating right now. These designs actually require symmetry because symmetry is something that allows our eyes to settle into a design very easily. It Symmetry is something that is very comforting to the audience to look at, and so when there is a any particular thing that has symmetry in it, the audience immediately relates it to something that is usually calming and soothing. So I want symmetry to be there, persistently there, in all of these designs. Okay. Anyway, coming back, what I'm going to do is the latter part of the um of the sari is something that I also want to implement into this, right? So again, I might not implement this in too much of symmetry. Maybe having something like this actually might work a little bit, or maybe having something on the opposite side might work a little bit. It'll also hide that fin on the other side that I'm having trouble with. You know, hello, it's like a pile of gum. Mermaid Marshall. I have no idea what it is that you're trying to get at. Right, so I'm planning to implement something like this as a design aspect for the costume to come down a little more. Read properly Bengali. Oh, Michele. Ugh, you are so bad. What's up, Bajro? How's life? Just casual depression. I see. The kind of things that are just so common right now. For all of Bojo's students who are right now here, and I don't know how many of yes, no more Berserk. That is true. For all of you who are here, I don't know how many of you are here. How many of you are here? I know that Suyash is here. I don't know about the others. I don't know if others are here. He is right now setting up your character design papers. So at any point of time, if you want to call him, haunt him, ask him what are the questions that are coming, what should we be studying, which part of the notes should we be studying, when are you giving us your notes, and things like that. Now is the time. Go ahead, spread the information, make him miserable. It's part of the job, Bosro. You can't say no now. It's too late. I have other work, right? Yes, Suyash, you are here. Please tell all of your classmates that Bojo sir right now is actually doing our or writing our papers, and we really should know what it is that he's planning for us. Yes. Every call deducts 10 points. I will make sure everyone knows. Yes. And don't worry about these empty threats. That we are not allowed to deduct points because of something like that. So you can call as much as you want to. This is fun. This is actually fun. I like it. Don't care. Nice. Let me take this pin. Man, these pins are actually becoming a real problem for me. Don't quite like where they are placed and how they are placed. Let me push this forward so that they kind of overlap on top of the main body and just create this little bump that is there on the other fin also. Just create this little bump and let me finish this design. Okay, works. Great. This is usually my first or my basic sketch. Now you can see that this basic sketch took about like 1 hour or 1 hour 20 minutes or so. That's because of the explanation that I usually give on the side also during my stream. Without the explanation, the talking, it usually takes less than an hour to be able to come up with this initial sketch on which I start adding things on top of in layer by layer to eventually get an output like this, right? And you guys have already seen multiple times in my stream how it goes after I actually create a final or an initial sketch like this. You guys have already seen me do the line art and the color and so on and so forth, and how I choose the different parts of the color. But this is how I usually start off with a little bit of research here and there, a little bit of design inspiration, so on and so forth. And inspiration is something that can be very very flexible. As to where you can get your inspiration from can become very very flexible, and how you want to use that inspiration can also be very flexible. But that the flexibility that I'm talking about is something that comes after a good amount of initial practice. When you have done that good amount of initial practice, at that time you know what to pick from which kind of designs and so on and so forth. When I was studying, and when I was in college, one of the things that one of the faculty members told me, and this proved to be a very very beneficial advice, and something that all of you who are actually trying to pursue design in different ways are also going to benefit from this. That is, um, you should actually look at design inspirations from other mediums rather than the medium for which you're taking the inspiration for. So basically, meaning that if you're going to create characters for maybe animation, then one of the main things that you should be avoiding is taking inspiration from other animated content. Because essentially, what you're doing is that you are taking first-hand in first-hand information from an animated content. You're going to take inspiration from there. You're going to make something else of your own and put it into your film. That becomes, what you're doing is you're taking second-hand information, second-hand knowledge, and you don't want to do that for your film or for any content that you're going with. So instead of taking inspiration from other animated content, take inspiration from other mediums. Take inspiration from photographs. Take inspiration from paintings. There are n number of paintings by n number of artists that they have done. So take inspiration from paintings and photographs, and even though the understanding might still stand that you are still taking second-hand information, but the thing is that characters for animation is done in a specific type of way, and when everyone is following that same kind of a rule, there's a very good chance that you are looking at something that is rudimentarily second nature to you. And don't do that, so for example, if you're drawing a horse for animation, and if you look at other animated content for horse, okay, they will be uh, very specific to animation by itself, whereas if you look at illustrations by great artists from the past and stuff like that, the way that they have made the horse looks actually very very different from what you would expect an animated horse content look like. So try this out, look at content from other mediums and see how you can draw inspiration from that to be able to make what it is that you are making right now. Um, so this is the Mohiniyattam one. Obviously, I'm also going to try and attempt the other one also, which I was talking about. And for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock this layer, group them up, and call it Mohiniyattam. Okay, right. And what was the other one that we were talking about? Satriya. I think yeah, that's what we were looking at. We were looking at Satriya. Right. This is what Satriya looks like from Assam. This is also very interesting and has some beautiful gestures. And immediately, what catches my eye, and it's not only because of the kind of um, contrast that it has, but also because of the gesture and the silhouette that it has, is this one. This is really nice, but it's obviously very very small, and I not something that I don't. I hate working with small images because you cannot look at the uh, uh, details that are there. This is also very interesting, and it has a very interesting silhouette. It's it's got a very dynamic silhouette. It's a very big image. Allows me to look at the nature of the costume very very well, and so I can use that to my advantage also. So by default, because of the way and the nature of this image is, I'm going to take this as my reference for Satriya. Right, let's just download this, bring this here, expand it, and I have the flexibility to expand it because it is a nice high resolution image, right? It's a very high resolution image, so it's going to give me the details that I want. Okay, so Odyssey is there, Mohiniyattam is there. We also move into trying to create the rough initial sketch for Satriya. As usual, I start off with the head and right, we remove this. So one thing that I actually saw in the previous batches that I taught, I think some people in Bojo's batch were also doing this. If I talk about the incident, Bojro might just be able to attribute certain people who might do something like this, right? But I have seen people who start off with the guidelines, which is the absolute right thing to do. You should definitely start off with the guidelines. But as you can see, after a point, after I'm done starting with the guidelines, I remove the guidelines quite early on in the sketch itself because the guidelines were basically for me to be able to figure out where the nose is going to sit, where the mouth is going to sit. But once I have already figured that out, and a lot of other things within the guidelines have already done the function that they are supposed to do, I remove the guidelines, right? I also remove the guidelines sometimes because sometimes guidelines can even become a hindrance in your drawing process, and you don't want the guidelines to become a hindrance in your drawing process, and so you kind of remove the guidelines eventually. Okay, that is something that we do, and apparently there are a lot of amateur artists who don't know that. I have met and taught a number of amateur artists who thought that it is a rule to keep the guidelines on the face or on the body till the very end. And only when they are actually in the finishing stages do they actually remove the guidelines, no matter how confused they were getting while drawing with the guidelines. I hope the people who are here in the live stream today are not like that, and they don't actually allow the guidelines to become a hindrance for them till the very end. If at any point of time you think that the guidelines are actually becoming too much or are not facilitating the drawing that you are making, remove the guidelines. Keep them on a different layer maybe and hide the guidelines. Don't allow the guidelines to become a liability. The guidelines are supposed to be an asset to your drawing technique, not a liability, right? So keeping them longer than what they are supposed to be kept is you actually making them a liability instead of an asset. Your thumb is odd. Ah, oh, see. So the index finger is actually folded. It moves downwards to meet the thumb, then comes out. Oh, okay. Interesting. When I was young, I met a lot of people when I was in college and stuff like that. I met a lot of people who said, interesting to a lot of things, just like I do now, right? They said interesting to a lot of things, and in a lot of things, I did not find what it is that they think is so interesting about it. For example, over here, I said that the index meets the thumb. Interesting. And I just caught it, But the fact of the matter is that I am so bad at drawing hands that simple things like this actually end up intriguing me, and I end up saying things like, interesting, you know. And this part of it also. That's why I find everything interesting. Are you trying to say that you are bad at drawing everything? Most things. I draw pretty eyes. Yes. I don't know if you guys have seen my old work, and I've mentioned this before also, I think. I don't know if you guys have seen any of my old work, but my old work is completely dominated with me making portraits. Completely dominated with me making portraits, you know. And I found that I have a certain skill when it comes to making portraits. And when I came to realize that, and I also came to realize that people actually loved my portraits, I was drawing only portraits for the longest bloody time. I was only drawing portraits. I was drawing eyes, I was drawing nose and things like that. I was trying to understand the dimensions of the face, and um, you know, and before I knew it, I found myself deeply involved in trying to get attention for drawing what it is that I like to draw. And that is portraits. I was getting a lot of attention. I wanted more and more attention for the portraits that I was drawing. I also realized that portraits is something that a lot of people end up practicing a lot because, firstly, the faces of characters is where the most amount of intensity is hidden. And so, to be able to tap into that intensity, a lot of people get addicted to the idea of drawing portraits. Uh, so that's definitely one thing. Second thing is that a lot majority of the people who you're going to cater to as your audience are also people who love to see faces. Okay, the brain is uh, hardwired to track faces more than any other part of the body. Within a particular image, the brain is first going to track a human being, a person. And after it tracks the human being, the person, the first thing about the human being or the person that the brain is going to want to see is the face, because that is where the most amount of interaction happens. The talking, the expressions, and so on and so forth, the voice comes from the face, right? So, uh, people actually love to see faces. They love to see portraits. And because of all of this rigmarole, eventually what happened is that I was making portraits for the longest time and completely ignored all of my other art fundamentals. Eventually, when I realized it and it dawned upon me that, you know, I really need to stop this at some point or the other. Really need to stop this. Or if not stop this, I won't say that I've stopped making portraits. I still have an innate love for portraits, but I needed to stop for the time being and reevaluate the kind of skills that I have by myself. And that is when I realized that I've actually kind of sacrificed on my art fundamentals, and I really needed to go back and re-explore. I really needed to re-explore anatomy, overall anatomy. I really needed to re-explore perspective, and so on and so forth. And trying to create compositions and the basics of compositions. I went back into studying all of that from my college days. I went back into studying all of that, and then I slowly and steadily kind of um, improved. I also became a little forgiving to myself about using art references, about the things that I wanted to create, like how I'm taking a complete reference now. Previously, I used to look down upon it, and very honestly, looking down upon using art references is a very, very immature thing for an artist to do. Art references are very valuable. Every single great artist in the world uses art references continuously and for good reason as well. It depends on how you are using the art references to, kind of facilitate your art. So don't shy away from using art references. Always use art references. I just realized if I remove this image over here and if I just look at this, she looks like she's wearing some sci-fi warrior costume. I am actually half expecting her to whip out a lightsaber and start fighting the dark side kind of thing. It's very intriguing, and this is actually from uh, a classical Indian dance form. But from that classical Indian dance form actually comes these very intriguing beautiful costumes that can easily be subjected into a contemporary pop culture kind of scenario. Very interesting. I love this. I just realized it, and I find this very interesting. I find a lot. I also find a lot of things very interesting, Suyash. Looks like Shang-Chi somehow. Yeah, exactly. You see, I'm actually taking direct relevance from this, and this obviously does not give you the same vibe because of all the patterns and textures that are there on her costume and all the jewelry that she's wearing. But as soon as you remove the patterns and textures and remove the jewelry, she looks something like this, which is very interesting. Do look quite similar. Yes, they do. They do look quite similar because even fighting, for that matter, is attributed to be a dance, right? It's basically and that phrase for fighting is also there. Let's dance, right? So that's also there is a very deep connection, but and that deep connection is quite obvious in its own sense. But it's not very often that you actually come to see the kind of clothes that they are wearing to something that you can attribute to fighting as well. So it's very nice. I really love this. Okay. So this is the initial sketch for the top part, the dance part. Okay, now let's look at the initial sketch for the bottom part. Now I have been looking forward to some kind of a dance that yeah, I am going to actually work with that resembles a kind of a fighting style. And this, as we just experienced, this kind of resembles fighting style. And for that, that is only for that kind of a dance was I waiting to actually implement the idea of a, a mer shark kind of an understanding, right? So sharks are one of the main things that I'm going to be looking at. And again, Arjun has already created a design based on a shark. I think it's somewhere on the top. There it is. Not this one, sorry, this one. A design based on a shark, which is very, very interesting, right? Any compositors who are there right now? DNEG is looking for a compositor, right? So you can apply if you want to. I have three new notifications on ArtStation. Holy shit, what happened? Okay, so this is a very very nice, very interesting this, but obviously the shark is very bulked up. Okay, and I don't want to create a bulked up understanding of a shark. Mainly, what I'm looking at is the lower portion of the shark over here, and obviously the main fin at the back. That is also something I'm looking at. If we go back to our this thing, implementing that back fin is going to be very difficult because we are seeing too much of the front and the back fin of the shark is actually not so big. So implementing that is going to be a little difficult. I might just create some kind of an extension, or I might have to make that bigger than what it is supposed to be. Either one of the two. We'll see that as we move forward into the design. But mainly, what I'm looking at is the bottom portion of the shark. So for that same reason, what I'm going to do is I am going to look at sharks. Okay, most sharks are actually going to look uh, the same, right? I can even implement the idea of an orca as well, but orcas are way too big, and I don't think it'll aesthetically fit the design of the Satriya either. So I don't want to implement that, but I will look into implementing this kind of a shark attribute. Right, so let me just take this as a reference for now. Okay, bring this into Photoshop. Oh, it's a tiny little shark. How cute. Please, the size of this. Okay. And let's see how we can implement this into this, for example. Okay. Now, as you can see, these extensions over here on either side of her already look like these kind of fins that are there on either side of the shark. Okay, so what I'm going to do is something that could be interesting if I implement it properly is if I create these fins on each side of the shark, on each side of this design, and put this on top of that fin, right? So that could be something that is interesting. Along with that, there are many other smaller fins here and there, and then there is a large tail fin at the end. So I'm going to have to implement that as well. How about a whale shark? Okay, let's look at a whale shark. Ooh, okay. Well, in terms of the latter half of the design, the whale shark is actually not very different from the shark that we already have, right? The main thing that is very different as compared to the whale shark and the actual shark is the mouth, which is something that we are anyways not implementing. That is the first thing. The second thing that is very interesting about the whale shark is the pattern. Yes, the dot pattern is very interesting. So I really don't mind implementing this whale shark. I actually quite like the dot pattern and the kind of colors that the whale shark actually has. So let me just download this first, and let me see what else I can implement. Like this as well. This is very interesting. Whale shark also has nice big side fins. Save that image. And I would like a long side image. This is a nice image. Cool. Okay, let's bring this in first. Shorten that out. Remove this. Okay, and flip horizontal this where we are looking at it in the same position as our dancer. Okay. Um, Let me create the volume for this, right? And one thing that I am trying to implement in this particular design is that the understanding of the shark, if we actually look at the shark front, face front, right? So the understanding of the shark, the top half of the shark is actually quite rounded, right? Something like this. It's quite rounded in nature. But if you look at the bottom part of the shark, the bottom part of the shark has a certain type of a flatness to it, right? So as you can see, the top part over here is quite rounded and it moves on either side of the body, so it's actually quite rounded, the top part. But whereas you look at the bottom part has a certain kind of a flatness to it. Okay, and this actually becomes a very uh, unique distinction when it comes to the volume of the shark. Okay, and that is the same thing that I actually want to implement. So the implementation pattern is such that this is the belly of the shark, the bottom of the shark, the belly of the shark, right? This belly portion of the shark, I want it to be flat. I want it to look flat. I want it to feel flat. right? Whereas the top part of it, I would rather have it enjoy a nice volume, right? A proper curvature is something that I'm looking at. Okay. So to bring out the flatness of this, what I'm mainly trying to do is to use straighter lines. Okay, and mimic straight lines on either side of it. Okay, so over here also I'm actually trying to use straight lines, and over here also don't let them be completely straight because we still have this kind of a roundity on either side of it. So don't let them be completely straight. Let there be a little bit of fluidity in terms of the design, but mainly what we are trying to implement is a certain type of flatness. Okay, and whereas all the other things, these lines will obviously not be there, but what is going to be there are the dotted patterns. And the dotted patterns and structure in which I actually try and create the dotted patterns is what is going to help me in creating that feeling of volume, that feeling of roundity all across, right? So that becomes very, very essential to keep in mind and understand. Okay. Now that I have done this, let's look at the side fins also once. I'm just going to bring in the other images as well so that I can look at it from other angles and understand the fins properly. You know, for example, this one over here, the fins actually look like they are coming out of the sides of the body in a completely straight formation, right? It's almost 90 degrees to the body. It's coming out in that kind of a formation. Whereas if you look at the other images, the previous image also, it looks like it is a little bit bent. Okay, so this is actually a lot more rigid. It shows a more rigid kind of an understanding for this. And let me bring out the other image as well. Right. This image actually shows that it is bending a little downwards. Okay. So now it is up to me as a designer. It is up to me what kind of an implementation it is that I want to give. Okay. Right now, what I'm planning to do is just remove this for now. Okay. And first, let's make the fin. Right. I can make the fin over here. I can make the fin over here. Right. Now the idea was to be able to first make the fin, obviously, and after making the fin, the other extension to the costume that is there, we try and arrange that over here. Now, one of the things that is there is that I cannot arrange that. Now that I've drawn the fin, I cannot arrange that because the fin is like yay thin, right? There is only a little bit of a element on the top which is a little horizontal, and then it curves downwards, right? So it is yay thin, and what we are actually trying to implement is something that is not so thin, something that is actually quite broad in its structure. Okay, so I might have to figure out something else. Okay, either I can actually bring this forward and let it drop from here, right? Or what I can do is I can forego this entire part and let it drop from the back, right? Or what I can do is I can actually take this fin and bring this back on its own. And instead of actually keeping it somewhere over here, I'm going to keep it somewhere here, and that thing, that extension that we were talking about, can still stay here. The fin actually comes from behind that extension, and similarly on this side also, the fin can come from behind that extension, right? So let me just go back to my this thing. Yeah, so this is where the extension is. Okay, let me just rework on this a little bit. Right, so I don't mind it going backwards a little bit. But we can keep it somewhere over here, right? And this seems to be working. There is no problems as such. If I flip it, then also it seems to be working, right? Let me do one thing though. When I flipped it, one of the main things that is actually coming out, one of the main mistakes that I can see after flipping it is that the volume of the base, the volume of the fish part, actually exceeds a little too much as compared to the volume of the dancer that's there on the top part. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this entire area, the lower portion, these selections, okay, and remove these extra selections as well. Transform and warp. And if I'm going to warp this, then the main thing that I'm looking at is firstly trying to reduce the uh, width of this. So you can see I'm trying to neutralize the width of this. If I control D it, now it is a lot more neutralized than what it was before, right? And secondly, this seems a little odd. It seems a little off, right? So again, let me choose this entire area, control T, warp it, and let me push it up a little bit. Push it up some more. And eventually, it does something like that, right? So I have something like this now. Let me switch on these layers again, and okay, there was one. Okay, I will need some more images of the dot of this uh, whale shark, and yes, this is the kind of image that I'm looking for. So you can see that the belly of the whale shark is kind of like is a complete white part, and it the white part is almost like some kind of a pattern or a texture of white that is flowing across the belly of the whale shark. Okay, so in this kind of situation, I'm just going to save this image, bring this here, right? Let's flip horizontal this, okay? And this thing that I have done over here, and that is basically layer this entire part out where it is actually going flat. Instead of layering that entire part out, what I want to do is that I want to make it a little more random so that it does not feel like it's got a clear demarcation. The clear demarcation is something that I want to kind of remove. And maybe on the other side also. So even though the pattern as such seems random, but even in its randomness, I want to maintain the idea of symmetry. Okay, so let me just bring this down, and now let's look at what are the other fins that I can implement into the shark. Now over here you can see that there are not many other fins that I can implement from the top aspect, but from the bottom aspect I can see that there are other fins that are coming out. Okay, let's look at the other images also. You see there are other fins that are coming out as well. Okay, so I'm going to implement one fin over here. Okay, that same fin on the other side can just peek out from the other side a little bit. In fact, that same fin should not be so close. I would rather keep it somewhere somewhere over here, right? Because it is on the other side and there is a lot of perspective that is coming into play. Okay, so I would rather keep it over here. I don't mind adding another fin, a steering fin, a small steering fin on the back over here, right? And then we end it with the this thing tail fin, which is a lot like a shark fin, and it is going to be very pointy edged. You see, it's a very pointy edged fin. Okay, so then this it's going to be long. So I would really like it if this pointy edged fin points back at my character, much like what I'm trying to do right now. If it can point back at my character, that would be really nice. And on the other end as well. So let me just first reduce the length, or reduce the width rather. The fin over here, okay, pointing upwards, coming backwards, point moves down again, and as it moves down, it is actually we are looking at it in a little bit of a perspective, right? Let's increase the size of this and have something like this. We will have something like this. Now, this initial sketch is not something where I am as such implementing too much about um, the dotted aspects of the shark. That is something that is going to take a lot more time for me to be able to figure out basically how the dotted thing is going to move. For now, I'm just putting down some kind of again guidelines, right? So something that actually moves like this, and something that moves vertically also. So these are guidelines that I have created to basically understand the horizontal volume of the body of this mermaid. Right now, I have to create lines that basically traces the vertical volume of this mermaid, which is a little more challenging, very honestly, for me maybe, to actually track out the vertical volume of this mermaid. Very challenging, very nice, very interesting. Okay, I want to go back to my previous, to my main design. There she is. I'd like to go back to this. Let me just remove these. Okay, where'd she go? No, there. Let me flip my canvas and let's have another look at what it is that she's wearing. Okay, so a lot of the attributes about what it is that she's wearing is something that I've already included in the design. I would also very much like to include the lower portions of her costume as well, right? So let me just fill in some of these details over here. This is supposed to be a lot more, um, supposed to have a lot more volume than what it is doing right now. And we have our pattern inside. This particular mermaid is going to pretty much take a lot of time because of the patterns that are there. right? You can see that there is this drape that falls downwards. There is this drape on that this side, and there is a drape that falls on the lower side as well. All of which I would actually really like to implement. Right, from this side, the rest of the drapery. Maybe not this much. Implement this entire drapery. In fact, I would. One of the things that actually comes to my mind is that because I finished the drapery off like this, it seems less dynamic than what it is supposed to seem. So for this particular Satriya variation, I'm actually going to lend it down completely. I'm going to take that risk in the design, lend it down completely, and see what kind of output it yields for me, because I want it to look a lot more dynamic than just finishing it over here. I want it to wrap around the form properly, like how a sari actually does. I want it to wrap around of the form, and so I'm going to increase the size of the sari all the way down to almost the base of the design, and that becomes my Satriya design. Satriya, right? So in totality, I have the Satriya design, I have the Mohini Attam design, and if I just increase this, then I also have my Odissi design. Just increase this damn. Let's increase this a little bit more. I have my Odissi design. Odissi, Satriya, and Mohiniyattam. So, simply put, an exhibition of the next three mermaids to come. The next three mermaids for me to be able to create. Um, Odyssey will most probably be the next one. That is going to be the sixth. Um, Mohiniyattam the seventh. Satriya the eighth. I'm going to have to figure out what else I want to do for the ninth one, which form it is that I want to go ahead with for the ninth one. Oh yes, I already have it. It's going to be the Bharatnatyam. I haven't made Bharatnatyam yet. So the ninth one is going to be Bharatnatyam, and the 10th one is going to be Bollywood. The 10th design is going to be Bollywood song, Bollywood dance based, right? So I'll look into what it is that I'm doing. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this session. This session was mainly to show you guys how I go about doing the initial sketch for these mermaid designs, right? Usually I move into each of the live streams already having done these initial designs, so you guys kind of miss out on the process of me being able to do this. So I thought I would fill you guys in on how I make the initial designs. Now, as you guys have already seen in a lot of my previous uh, live streams, now I'm going to go into the final line art for this. After going to the final line art, I'll go into the flat colors for it. Then I'll move into the shadows, two-tone shadows. Then I will go into using highlights and then the backgrounds and so on and so forth to eventually come out with the final product that you see me uploading on Instagram. Right. I will be going ahead and finalizing Odyssey most probably tomorrow. I'll most probably be utilizing my time and finalizing Odyssey, trying to finish Odyssey and putting it up on Instagram maybe by tomorrow or maximum my day after. I'll put up Odyssey, which means that on Tuesday I will either be working on the Tuesday live stream. I'll either be working on finalizing the Mohiniyattam design or the Satriya design, either one of the two. But I'll see you guys next time on Tuesday on my next live stream. And as I have already promised on the last live stream, that is on Friday, last live stream of the month, that is on Friday, I will be doing the Bollywood dance design. Right. So I look forward to doing that live stream and look forward to having you guys for that live stream. I hope you guys enjoyed this session as well. And thank you all for coming. Stay safe and see you next time.